Yes. Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much again for joining us for All Access Pass. I am still your cruise host, Jason, and it is still an honor to have you, whether you're a part of our live studio audience or you're watching back in your rooms. So glad to have you tuning in once again. Today, I am joined by one of the greatest acts that, let's be honest, the world has ever known. We stole them over here to the United States. Help me welcome Air Supply. Yeah, look, I know. Do you recognize the guy on the shirt? I don't know if you do or not. That's,
Stand up, dude.
yeah, stand up and turn around. Show people that shirt. Show people the shirt. Yeah.
I might steal that for tonight.
Yeah.
Or tomorrow night.
Gentlemen, I know this is a silly question, but I have to ask it. I know you are renowned from the beginning through to today for being aware, in touch, and appreciative of your fans. You've always been about the fans. That's something that has always been known about Air Supply. Does it still, to this day, after you guys are coming up in a month or two here, a month maybe at your 50th anniversary?
Correct.
What, yeah, by all means, we can applaud that. That's staying power. Does it still blow you away, the reception you get and how much the fans love you 50 years in? Did you see that coming? Did you predict this? What does it mean to you?
Well, nobody would have predicted this at all. I mean, when we first started in Australia, we thought we'd be good for maybe 5 years, you know.
Yeah.
And,
a quick go, yeah.
We lasted a bit longer than that. But, you know, you've probably heard this before from other artists, but we sincerely mean this. Obviously, we wouldn't be here if you guys weren't here. Your support, your love, your understanding of our lifestyles, and coming to see us so many times. We've had people that have seen hundreds of shows. This guy in the front certainly has. And you know, we're indebted. We're honoured. We're very humbled by everything that you've done for us, and we're going to stick around as long as we can for you. So thank you.
50 more years are on tap. I like it. This is good. And the date, if I'm not mistaken, is May 12th. Is that the exact date of...
It is, yeah.
May 12th, it means 50 years.
Yeah, I know. It's bizarre because every decade we say, oh my God, in another 10 years it'll be 50, and then suddenly it's here. It's quite overwhelming for us, you know. But we decided we were going to do several different things. We were going to have a cruise, but then that was too cost prohibitive for us and for the fans. So in the end, we decided not to work on May the 12th. So we're playing Carnegie Hall on the 13th, but we decided on the 12th we wanted to go out to dinner and just take it easy. You know.
I'm sure I speak for all of us when I say, you've earned it. You can have one night. You can have one night of dinner. Feel free on behalf of us. So I don't want to spend a ton of time back in the day because I know you guys have told the stories a million times, but let's start with a little bit of the fun bits. Day number 1, there's a rolled ankle. Jesus Christ Superstar is in Australia.
You know your stuff.
I know a little bit. Tell us a little bit about how you guys met and how Air Supply came to be.
We both met on the first day of rehearsals, of course. Neither of us had any theatre experience. In fact, from my point of view, I didn't have a clue. I flew from Sydney to Melbourne, got off the tram, went to a music store, bought some music. I didn't know if I could sing it in the right key. It was Bridge Over Troubled Waters. Went along, and there were 300 people there. And there's a lot of professional auditioners, and they do the best they can to make you go away.
Absolutely.
So one guy said, what are you going to sing? And I said, Bridge Over Troubled Water. And he goes, oh, I wouldn't do that if I were you, man. So I actually walked away and took a bit of a step back. Anyway, got back there, waited God knows how long. Gave the sheet music to the producer or the casting director. She said, oh, I love that song. I thought, I'm in. But I wasn't. They called me back 3 times. I was recalled like a bad car. But anyway, first day of rehearsals, we met. We did this. They were trying to teach us to dance. And if you've seen us dance, not going to happen. So Graham actually tripped and rolled his ankle. It was like watching an oak fall down.
It's a long way to go.
Yeah, it was. So I was one of 2 or 3 guys that helped him get backstage, and we put ice and hot water and blah, blah, blah. But I thought it was the end of him. I didn't think he would be back. But, pretty quickly we found that we had so much in common. We both saw the Beatles in our teenage years, both in England and Australia. Loved the music. And because he's English, you all know that. We had the same taste in humour and movies and food and all that stuff. So we were positioned in the men's chorus room together, quite coincidentally. We started the show. They had 6. They looked like big test tubes. So there were 2 apostles in each test tube. We were in the same test tube. Everything that should have happened to put us together happened.
It did. When I went into Superstar, my audition, I had a day job. I used to deliver bread in a truck, right? And it's, apart from Air Supply, it's the best job I ever had because I used to work from 4 in the morning till 7, and I used to be in the mountains delivering bread, and it was always dark. So I really used to enjoy all the wild animals that I would hear at 4 in the morning, and I used to love it. But when I went to audition, but I had no money at all. I didn't have anything. So the song I sang was I Who Have Nothing.
Apropos, yeah.
Yeah, the Anthony Newley song. And I must have been okay, but like Russell, I queued up for several hours, and the audition took about 40 seconds. And halfway through, they say, thank you, thanks. And I thought, oh my, let me finish, But they don't let you do that at auditions. But I got the call about 2 weeks later, and I was in the show, and it was one of the most incredible, happy days of my life, because I went, oh my God, this is the beginning, But when Russell and I met, it was strange, because it was almost like we knew each other before we even spoke. It was really weird. And then, as Russell said, there were so many things we had in common. It was uncanny. And then a few days after we started to sing together, between shows, and I'd bring my guitar in, we'd sing some of my songs and sing a couple of songs that we knew. And it sounded really good, and we both knew it. And people would come in, the other cast members, they would drop by the men's chorus room to hear us sing, and they kept saying, God, you guys sound really good together. And so we started to believe it, and we started to sing to each other. And not long after that, we started to think about forming a band, which was Air Supply. So the fact that that's 50 years ago is so amazing to us. It's unreal.
It has to be slightly mind-boggling when you go back, especially because it's been just the 2 of you. There's not a whole band of 7 guys that have had their moments, and gals, whatever. Yeah. It's the 2 of you. There's not a lot of room for error when there's just 2 of you. If you don't like one, that's trouble. So you can't go hang out with the other guy if you don't like,
That's funny. No, we've always enjoyed each other's company, apart from being on stage and working together. And the other thing is, we don't see each other too much when we're not working. Graham
that helps. Yeah.
He's a mountain man. He lives in Utah, up in the hills with grizzly bears and all kind of crap. And I live by the beach with Netflix.
Same result, different choices. Got it. So you guys form up there in around 1977-ish. Please correct me. You get your first big break with Rod Stewart tagging you guys to open up. Tell us a little bit about that call and how that comes to be and what that ends up meaning.
Well, we'd had a album and a single released in Australia, which was monstrous, and we came out of nowhere as far as Australia was concerned. Nobody knew who we were, but it was #1 everywhere, and I won't bore you with the details. But on the strength of that, Rod Stewart's management contacted our person and asked if we would do 3 shows with Rod in Australia. We said, well, we'll think about that.
We're very in demand at the local coffee house, so we'll have to consult our schedule.
So we played 2 of the shows, and after the second show, Rod came to us in our dressing room and asked us if we wanted to tour with him as an opening act in 1977. All across North America we did, and Canada, we did from September through December. And for us, we kind of dreamed about having a career that was big. But we opened for Rod in Madison Square Garden and the Forum and Three Rivers Stadium and Candlestick Park and, you know, the Superdome, the Enorma Dome and the Dome of Domes. We played every big place you could think of, so it was an amazing experience. And we thought that would be our big break, but we went back to Australia and we were forgotten about. But yes, sad but true. But we watched every single show that Rod did, and we absorbed everything we could, the way he reacted with an audience, the way he took control of 20,000 people. We looked at production, we looked at lights, we looked at crew, transportation, every facet of the business. We couldn't get enough of that, and I think that put us in good stead when we came back.
But good for you, because you have a wonderful opportunity that you could have squandered.
Oh, yeah,
You've got Rod Stewart in front of you performing, and he's obviously Rod Stewart. You could have been young and arrogant enough to think you could have, no, it's fine. But to use that opportunity to really work, you know, to woodshed it, to take a moment to figure out how to do it, that's a testament to especially for some young guys that are just starting to break.
Yeah, when we decided to form a band in Superstar even, we knew it was an opportunity because we wanted to carry on working together, and we didn't want to go back to a day job. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we knew it was an opportunity, so we took it, and we said, let's form a band, and we used the Superstar name, and we were doing shows in clubs, you know, acoustic shows, and then when we got to work with Rod, we knew that was an opportunity too. So we just learned. It was like going to the school of rock for us.
Absolutely,
it really was.
absolutely.
Because we were as green as grass, and we didn't really know what we were doing, and it took a while before we did. I mean, one of our first shows was to 90,000 people at the Sydney Opera House, and we were brand new. And even when we had the #1 album and single, we'd never played live, ever. And because we were still in Superstar. So we used every moment to learn, figure out what was going on. And like Russell said, we used to watch Rod on the side of the stage every show. And we'd watch what he did, how he did it, and we'd take it all in. So when it came time for us in 1980, we were ready, you know. We had the songs, we had Russell's voice, and we had all the information we needed. So we were armed and dangerous in 1980. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now we're old and dangerous.
More or less dangerous? No, just kidding. Don't answer.
Just as dangerous.
Just as dangerous. Ideal. The perfect amount of dangerous. If you remember last time, I do encourage our audience to show up a little early. I don't allow them a live microphone to ask questions because that can go awry. But I do allow them to write them down, and then I get to read them for them. So if you don't mind, we'll go through. We'll open it up to some crowd. I could go on forever talking to you guys. But I want our audience, obviously our mega fans, to have a chance here. Joanne from Kansas City. What advice, great question, what advice would you tell your younger self if you had the opportunity to do so?
As far as career is concerned, I would certainly tell myself, I speak to myself often too, surround yourself with good people.
Oh, I bet.
One of the pitfalls of many acts, including us, was that some guy comes up with a shiny thing and says,
Sure.
I'm going to make you a star. And they hand you a piece of paper and they say, just sign this at the bottom.
No need to read it.
We'll
Don't
fill
read
the
it.
rest in later. Good people, management, financial people, lawyers, sadly, we all need them. We needed them. Because you waste time and you also waste a lot of money because, in fact, I'll give you a quick story. We'd come back from the Rod Stewart tour and we really couldn't get arrested in Australia. And I spoke to a guy who was a friend of mine, and he said, I spoke to your manager the other day. I said, oh, yeah? He said, yeah, we had lunch on his yacht. And I went, his yacht? He goes, yeah, he just bought this 100-foot, blah, blah, blah. And I was on the bones of my ass. I didn't have anything. And I said to him, I need to come look at the books. And he said, give me a couple of days. I said, no, I'll be in this afternoon. So that started a whole bunch of stuff. But just be educated if you can, because you'll really not have to put up with a lot of stuff that is very sad. And also, I've seen friends of ours that had all the talent, all the stuff. They were so hurt and rejected in their hearts by what happened to them, they gave up the business. That's another thing you have to have is resilience. You're going to get rejected, certainly. You've got to keep going, because we knew we had the talent, we knew we had the songs, because this gentleman here is a brilliant songwriter. Yeah. So that would be a good piece of advice
Great
for
answer.
myself.
Graham, what about you, sir?
I agree completely. We learned very early on to surround yourself with great people. And you have to realize, too, that you're not good at everything. I think everyone, well, certainly in our circle, you may be good at one thing, really good at one thing. Do that one thing, and then get people that are really good at other things. Like we've been with the same manager since that time.
Barry Siegel, where are you?
But for almost 50 years.
He's all the way in the back. He's hiding back in the corner.
He's
There's
hiding.
Barry back there.
Yeah. 35 years, Barry.
Barry, how big is your yacht? Just kidding, Barry, just kidding. We'd like to look at the books later, just so you know. Sorry, Graham, I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry, I apologize. Richard comes to us from Houston. As amazing singers, who influenced you the most in the early days? Was it Rod Stewart, or did you have other people?
It's always been the Beatles for me. I think Paul McCartney's got one of the greatest voices in the history of music. John Lennon as well. I mean, Ringo, not so much. But I was always loved to listen to bands that could harmonise. The Bee Gees,
absolutely.
Beatles, Eagles, Queen. But we also love AC/DC too. So, yeah. Just good voices,
I like that. Graham, who influenced you, sir?
Well, Russell obviously goes for the singers, and I go for songwriters. I've always been influenced heavily by Lennon McCartney, of course, because I grew up with them. I never thought I'd be here, though, but I just love great songwriters. And in my household, when I grew up, I was the youngest of 3 kids. And so my sisters, who were 4 and 8 years older than me, loved musicals. So I grew up listening to Rodgers and Hammerstein by default. So consequently, I love musical theater, and I love those great songs. My favorite movie, and you'll laugh, is South Pacific. But I just love great songs, and for me, there are no better songwriters than Lennon McCartney growing up, So I was very lucky to grow up listening to the greatest pop songs of all time, and I still do. So I'm very fortunate.
Wonderful answer. April comes to us from Pittsburgh. How did you pick the name Air Supply?
This is Graham's favorite question.
He did perk up when I...
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, we were in Superstar, and we'd made our first single that was due to come out, but we didn't have a name. And our producer at the record company said, we need to have a name by tomorrow morning to put on the single. And we didn't have one, so we agreed whoever had the best name the next morning, we had to go with. Well, that night, I had a dream of a giant billboard, and it was pure white. And on the perimeter were all these flashing lights going off. And on the middle of the billboard in big black letters were 2 words, and it said, Air Supply. It's a true story. And I told Russell the next morning, and we didn't really think much of it, did we?
Well, we just said, because we asked the cast members in Superstar if they would suggest some names, and they didn't take us seriously at all. And it really browned me off. I thought, how rude. And it was, And anyway, Graham, we decided that the next time we got to the show together, whatever name either of us had that sounded okay, we would use it. And as soon as Graham said I had this dream, an Air Supply, it was a no-brainer because it does have connotations about what the music is, and you know, it's been a great, well, it's a great name. What can I tell
It
you?
really is. It really is. It really, really is. I love that it came to you in a dream like that. That is serendipitous, right? In so many ways. I mean, how can you manifest that unless it's meant to be manifested in that moment?
It's funny, you know. Even last night I dream of songs too, and often I pretty much every night I wake up in the middle of the night, and I always have my guitar there. And this morning I played it for 2 hours, but last night I dreamt of this classical piece of music, and I remember in the dream, and I think, oh, that's really beautiful. And I woke up, and it was still in my head, but as I began to wake up, it started to fade.
Sure.
But I should have written it down. And of course, by the time I wanted to write it down, it was gone. But it's a really cool thing. I dream a lot of songs, and usually I remember them and I can write it down. But I didn't this morning, but often I do.
Imagine how many Air Supply and/or worldwide musical masterpieces have been lost because Graham didn't write them down in the damn morning. I'm lodging my complaint right now that we need to just have a recorder in the bedroom, whatever we need. Probably not that, but something. This one's from Bill. Bill has a couple of questions, one for each of you, matter of fact. Graham, you first. Are you still vegan, vegetarian?
No, I've become pescatarian. I was vegan for 4 years, but now I'm pescatarian simply because being on the road for me, I needed a bit more variety. I got a bit fed up with the same old stuff, you know. And especially we have dinner on the road at 5:30, and I just wasn't getting enough variety, and I started to feel a little weak. So I'm eating fish as well. But I eat a lot of vegetarian stuff, but I don't eat any dairy or flesh, you know.
Flesh.
Flesh.
That's a strong word for it.
That was
You're
a bad-
making me question what I'm doing. Good Lord.
That was a bad choice of
Yeah.
word right there.
Russell, how do you feel about eating flesh? No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to go there.
All I can get.
Yeah. More, please. Yeah. Bill has a question for you as well, Russell. And this is actually, I'm going to actually, you're going to have to ponder this for a moment. How much or do you ever miss your spectacular afro?
Well, I didn't until today.
Yeah, until you saw the picture.
You know what? Like a lot of us that are a little bit older, sometimes I look at photos of us in this era, and I go, "What was I thinking?" But you know, at the time it was great. I mean, I used to wear 6-inch platform boots and purple suits, and well, I was going to say I used to wear jewelry, but hey, I still did. No, I don't. It's just, but it's cool. It's cool to look back, and because when I see a photo like that, in fact, that photo on your T-shirt is the photo that I sent for my picture in the Superstar magazine, the cast photo.
Oh, how cool. Do
It's-
you remember what age you were at that point right there?
25, 26.
25
yeah.
years old.
Yeah. But, you know, it's great to look back on, but obviously if I dressed like that now, somebody would have me committed.
Very, yeah. Oh, they're pointing at
In
each
fact,
other.
you
Yeah.
should be committed for
Yeah.
wearing that here today.
We have a break downstairs. We'll take care of it. Don't worry. Lori comes to us from Springfield. Oh, this is cute. Thank you. And a big smiley face and a thank you for answering the question. If you were to go on a date with a girlfriend or wife or whoever happens to be in your life, what band would you personally take a loved one to go see?
Electric Light Orchestra.
Graham, do you concur? You're smiling at an audience. I totally agree. In fact, we both saw ELO in October on different shows, and early this year we've added 2 cellos to the band. They won't be here for the shows here, but they're going to be at every other show on wherever we play.
We have the most amazing new sound. I mean, not for you, but, you know, elsewhere. Oh, it's amazing. Yeah. Way to dangle that carrot for the live performances on land. Book your tickets now. Nicely done. Lorena from Maine, which love song that you have written or performed between the two of you means the most to you and why?
For me, it's Lost in Love. Yes, great song. We had great success in Australia, went with Rod Stewart, came back, couldn't do anything. But when that song was released worldwide, everything exploded and our lives changed. They didn't change overnight, it took 5 years, but when that happened, it was crazy. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. In fact, you should tell them about Khan and all that stuff when we were still broke, and we didn't know it was going to be released in the US. Anyway.
Yeah, and I agree about Lost in Love. We were, we were so destitute, and I decided to go to Cannes in the south of France, which sounds really exotic, right? But I had no money, and I scrounged and borrowed money from people to get there because I wanted to go to this. There's a publishing convention every year called Midem in Cannes, and people sell and buy songs. So I wanted to go there to sell some songs to anybody that would give me anything. And when I got there, I got food poisoning. And I never left my hotel room for 3 days. I wanted to die. And by the time I was able to stand up and go down to the street, the whole street was deserted. The festival had ended. And it was like a scene from a Clint Eastwood movie, where he's got the poncho and the cigarette. There's all tumbleweeds blowing down the street and cardboard boxes and litter. And I was just coming out the hotel room and I just beginning to walk. And I thought, oh God, that's, just my luck. Everything's finished. And there was a magazine, not Billboard, it was Record World in those days. And I picked it up. And on the front cover, it said, Lost in Love, yeah, but hang on. It said, Lost in Love, destined to go all the way. And I thought, oh, that's all I need. Another band has written a song called Lost in Love. I swear to God. I thought, oh, great, And it said, turn to page 5 for details. I thought, oh, here we go. I turned to page 5, and there's a picture of Russell and I there. And I went, yes! Yeah, oh, God. Phew! But we didn't know that Arista Records had bought the rights to the song. We didn't know. We had no idea. And after that, I called Russell, who was in Australia, and my whole demeanor changed. I went from being kind of down and out to jubilant, and I called him and I said, guess what? We're going to be in the charts. And the next week, Lost in Love came in the Billboard at number 71 with a bullet, and it just went all the way. It became Song of the Year and Record of the Year.
When you look back at the catalog and all that you've written, and you continue to write and perform, obviously, but when you look back on all the classics that you guys have together, are there any songs that you were so sure were going to take off that didn't?
Yeah, there was one that we were doing a record in England and in London, and the producer of the record called me at 3 a.m. and he said, you've got to come and listen to this song. So I went over to his place, and he played me a version of The Power of Love. And it was amazing, and I thought, wow. Anyway, I said to Graham, we've got to hear this song. We both agreed it was going to be great, and it was. And we released that song, and nobody liked it at all. I mean, radio hated it, actually.
But she liked it, don't worry. She loved it,
yeah. But in any case, that was such a disappointment to everybody. And of course, some years later, Celine Dion did a version, exactly the same version, exactly the same instrumentation, same arrangement. God bless her. Her voice is obviously one of the best in the history of music. But I was so angry because it was our song, and she pinched it.
Do you have anything specific? Would you agree, Graham? Was that yours?
Yeah, it was a big disappointment for us because we were for sure. We thought because we were we recorded in England, and we thought, yeah, this is going to be a continuation of our success, but it just wasn't. But at the same time, I think it brought us down to earth, because nothing's certain, certainly in show business, and I think it made us realize that. Nothing's certain. Even if you think something's going to be fantastic, you never know. Everything's always iffy until you actually see it there.
That's a great note too, I think, especially for musicians or anyone in the arts in general, is, you know, right when you think you've got it, you're reminded maybe, no, stay the course, yeah. Are there, on the opposite side of that coin, were there any songs that took off for you guys that you thought, whoa, we did not see that coming?
Well, a couple of them actually. Our record deal, our management negotiated with Arista and Clive Davis, the president. He had the right to pick 3 songs on every album, and he brought us Even the Nights Are Better, which is, we love it now. But yes,
Now.
thank you, madam. Now, well,
Now.
we both said it sounds like the theme from Arthur, you know.
Okay, all right, yeah.
And we were, oh, you don't want to do that, you know. He said, well, you should do it. And then we go, well, we don't really want to do it. And then he said, well, you should do it. And we said, well, we don't want to do it. And he said, well, if you don't do it, we're not going to finish the album. So we said, we'll do it.
We'll do it, yep.
And of course, it became a huge hit. We love it to death now. And it is a great song, but I just thought, you know, we wanted to concentrate on Graham's original songs. And but once again, you know, careers are made with good decisions by Clive in this case. You also have to negotiate. Because we could have been finished if we'd said, screw you, we're not doing this. Yeah. But, you know, it was a wise choice for us after all. A great song now. And that's it, folks.
Yeah.
Love the song.
How about you, Graham?
Yeah, I agree about that. When we first met Clive, well, after I was in Cannes, I wanted to make sure it was real. When I went back to Australia, because Clive said, get back and make the album, I wanted to meet Clive on the way, so I went to meet him. And I realized at that point that, it's like I said earlier, you've got to have people on your team that really know what they're doing. And even though Clive was a little bit, you know, he would say, I want you to do this, but what he really meant was, you're going to do this. Well, he did, but he was the Svengali of the world in the music business. And there was a music publisher that I did enter an agreement into, and he pulled me aside. And this was when All Out of Love was coming out. And he said, because Clive wanted to change a lyric in All Out of Love. And I said, no, I'm not going to let that happen. And this publisher, his name was Billy Michel, and he was quite famous. And he pulled me aside and he said, if you listen to Clive, he'll make your whole career. And I said, you know, and it's a tough decision for a musician or a songwriter when somebody else wants to get in there. You know, your first reaction is, no, I want to do it my way. But, you know, I listened to him and he said, listen to Clive. And we listened to Clive, and he was instrumental heavily in our career. And like Russell said, we probably wouldn't be here without Clive right now. So he was part of our team, but he was the guy to have on your team. I mean, he's created the careers of so many people, like Bob Dylan, Simon and Garfunkel, Janis Joplin, Whitney Houston.
Whitney, yeah.
I mean, so we were very fortunate. And from the beginning of our career, we've always had a lot of luck on our side. Like when we came out as Superstar, and we opened for Rod, and we fell into Clive's lap. Metaphorically, not literally. So we've had a lot of luck, and it takes a lot of know-how to recognize when something really good is happening. But we've kind of become good at that now.
You know, after every single, the first 7, of course, were massive. But after each one, we would go to Clive's office, and he had all these people, A&R, people that were supposed to get the records played on radio. And they were so scared of Clive. We'd be sitting, I used to sit between some of them, and he'd be saying, you know, this will go to radio, you'll get it played, blah, 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 blah. And I'd be sitting next to this guy, and he'd be going, you know, Clive's an idiot. And they used to talk behind his back, but when it came time to get the job done, they went out there and they gave, you know, literally blood, sweat and tears to get you on radio. Of course, at that point, we didn't need it because everything that went to radio was, you know, once again, we were going, what? This is number 3, this is number 2, this is number 7 in a row. Only at the time, the Beatles had done that. Of course, they had 5 songs in the top 5 once, but that's another story. But, you know, he was amazing and he got the job done. And as Graham just said, I'll repeat him, listen, you know, because if you don't listen, you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunity.
But you said something that I'm going to slightly refute very politely. You said you've learned to listen now, but every story you're telling right now tells us as fans you were listening carefully then, and thank goodness because you were able to listen then. You were able to hear Clive, you were able to hear the feedback, and you were able to hear and take on the direction. So where you may be more proficient at it now, you were obviously astute at the time, and you were in touch enough, and I think as a fan, thankfully for all of us, that you were, because now we have Air Supply 50 years later, still one of the greatest bands of all time.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I totally agree with you, even as early as the Rod Stewart thing. You know,
Exactly.
we knew that this guy was the biggest star in the world at the time, and we knew that if we watched, observed, and absorbed everything he did and adapted what we needed from him into our stage persona and act, that we were on the right path.
It's a wonderful playbook, and it's right in
Yes,
front of
it
you.
is.
It's
It
right in
is.
front of you.
Yep.
A couple more questions here. Rachel and Jim comes to us from Springfield. What is, if you cannot pick an Air Supply song, what is the greatest song you've ever heard? Or one of, doesn't have to be a singular greatest song. Is there a song you can think of that you just think is perfection?
There are 2. The first one is In My Life, Beatles song, which is an amazing song emotionally, lyrically, and the other one probably would be Bohemian Rhapsody.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I like it. Russell took the bullet by going first, Graham. You got to go second.
It's hard to beat that. My favorite Beatles song is If I Fell from Hard Day's Night. But for me, a lesson in songwriting would be The Long and Winding Road. That's just my personal.
Good answer. Great answer. Jennifer comes to us from New Hampshire. Having the pleasure of seeing you do a live show with Sebastian Bach, is there anyone in the heavy rock genre you would love to collaborate with if all bets were off?
Well, I don't write songs, so Graham can answer
No,
that
as a
part.
performer as well.
Well,
as a
yeah,
performer.
I'd love to sing with AC/DC, with Brian Johnson.
With
Yeah.
proper. Yeah. Graham, what about you? To write, collaborate, write as a writer or as a performer, who would be your dream?
In heavy rock?
That specific one was rock, but you can go wherever you want.
Yeah. Well, of course, I'd love to work with Paul McCartney, but I don't think he does that anymore. But Robert Plant would be great, I
Plant.
think.
Good answer.
We played in India in '96, and we got to hang out with him because there was a lot of artists on the bill, and it was really cool to see that people like him, just like regular people talking. We were talking about his garden and how he grows his cabbage and stuff, and I'm standing there and I think, God, this is Robert Plant here. But someone like that.
Talking about plants.
Yeah, plants.
I have a great story about India. We went to do this. We got some award for being the most fabulous band in history.
As you do.
And,
anyway, moving on.
We were booked to do this Good Morning Bombay, it was called at the time, not Mumbai. So when you do stuff like that, as you well know, you get there in the morning, they put a microphone on, you sit there, and the host comes in and sits where the front of the stage is, and they say hi, nothing else. So we're sitting there, and the music comes on, and this woman, charming lady, she says, "Good morning, everybody at the camera. Welcome to Good Morning Bombay. My name is so-and-so. Our special guests are Graham Russell and Russell Hitchcock with Air Supply. Thanks for having us. Let me start by asking, have you two ever been lovers?"
Funny enough, that was my next question here on the card. So,
So, of course, I'm in shock. I mean, you know, because it's been on the outskirts of people used to think we were gay. There's obviously nothing wrong with that. But, you know, we never were. And I thought, this lady's got some balls asking that for in front of probably 300 million people are watching this show, you know.
as the opening question, no
But yeah, I know. Well, that was
glad
what
to have you. So, tell us about your love life. Yeah.
and we said no. You know, we're in relationships and we enjoy each other's company. And I always used to say on stage, we don't sing to each other, we sing with each other. There's a big difference.
There's a
there.
distinction.
There
There's
is
a
too.
very
I mean, for 50 years we've sang to each other, and you know,
With.
"Here I am, the one that you love." But it's just our job, folks.
In fact, I was in a relationship, and the lady would come to the shows, and she would get so angry because you know, typically sing to ladies in the audience, and she'd get, why do you sing to ladies? I go, do you want me to sing "Here I Am, the One You Love" to a guy? Not my bag, baby.
Next question is from Deanna from New Orleans.
It's hard to top that, isn't it?
It is.
Really? Yeah.
So you just said on stage you weren't gay. You didn't say you aren't. You said you were. No, I'm just joking. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Okay. Well, I'll
Yeah,
clear that.
jokes,
up.
jokes.
I'll clear that up. We weren't, and we aren't.
Yeah, there you go. Deanna from New Orleans, actually, this is a great one. Graham, she's obviously got a big smiley face on this. Yep. My sister Sandra gave you her phone number at the New Orleans World Fair some short 40 years ago. She would desperately like to know why you didn't call, and don't try to make up for it now because her number has changed. Shame on you.
That's another thing. We get a lot of people.
Of course.
Well, we get a lot of people. Yeah, that's good. But invariably, a lot of people say to you, "Remember me?" I go, I'm all honest. I go, "No, I'm sorry, I don't." Well, I met you in 1987.
We passed in a hallway that one.
Yeah, and you know, you were wearing this and that, and I go, you know, I don't remember. I mean, I wish I could, but that would be a curse too, to remember everything, wouldn't it?
And there's, you guys are over, and I don't know what your number is now. I don't know if you know it, but you're over 5,500 live shows at this point. That is a monster number of shows. They're over that. That was in 24. So that was in 2024. You hit the 5,500 mark.
Carnegie Hall will be 5,560.
5560. That is a massive. I mean, do you ever sit? Do the two of you ever talk about your career as normal, everyday guys? Just holy, Can you believe?
Well, we do. I mean, but you have to be reminded. Like Carnegie Hall was one of the biggest, you know, pieces of great news we ever had from Barry, and when you sit down and go, we're going to play Carnegie Hall. Everybody wants to play Carnegie Hall. Then you think, we got here because this happened so many years ago, and you know, we played the Sydney Opera House with the Sydney Symphony. We played to 175,000 people in Cuba. We've done Hollywood Bowl, the Greek theatre. I mean,
you
all
toured
great places.
China right when China
Yes,
opened.
we did.
You were one of the
We
first
did.
Western bands to enter China.
Yes, we did. We when we played China, we had to go and be interviewed by a panel of military officers, you know, who didn't speak English. And of course, we didn't speak Chinese or Mandarin. And they had to vet every lyric of all the songs. And they told us before the show, you cannot leave the stage because you'll get shot. So we get to the show.
Have a great show, though.
Yeah. Seriously. We got to the show, and there's a line of guys with AK-47s or whatever they have lined up there, and we did 2 shows. So the first night we obeyed the rules, and the second night we both said before the show, "Oh, screw it, what are they going to do? Shoot us?" So at the appropriate time, we both got off the stage, and well, you can continue the story.
You're doing a great job.
we got off stage, and the guys, like the soldiers, started to step forward, and we just went, "Don't worry," you know. And we went, and they loved it. The officers in their booth up there somewhere, they thought it was a great show, and I really do believe it broke the ice for that kind of strictness, because we're not thrash metal or mosh pit stuff. We have a show and we love our show, and we show up on time. We don't cuss before the show. I mean, during the show.
During the show.
And I think it did a lot of good for people in that area, in relations between us and music, to be able to break that barrier and say, people come to see a show. They don't want to get violent. They just want to enjoy the show. And the soldiers were great. It was an awesome experience.
Has there been anywhere you guys have performed the reception was absolutely incredible, that maybe you were a little bit apprehensive about the reception at first?
When we first went to Taiwan in 81, they'd never seen a Western band before. And when we got there, there was hundreds of people at the airport, and we got to the hotel, and there were hundreds of people all over the hotel, and there were military around, because they didn't know what to do. But we couldn't leave the hotel, which was a real bummer, because we wanted to go and explore, But we couldn't go anywhere. So we just had a military escort to the venue and then back, and then we left. So that was our experience. But I mean, that doesn't happen everywhere, of course. But we spoke about that and saying, what a miserable existence that would be. I mean, the Beatles had that every moment, but for us it was fleeting. But it's very strange. You just can't go anywhere, and you're dying to get out your hotel room and maybe go to the coffee shop, but you just couldn't, It was really weird.
I think on that same trip I went to a department store. I wanted to buy some undies. So I went to the appropriate place in the store, and as I'm walking, just getting close, I hear All Out of Love on the sound system. So I'm going up to the section, and all of a sudden I look around and there's people going like this, coming towards me. And I don't know about you, I don't want to buy underwear with an audience, So I had to, not the kind of underwear I wear anyway.
I was just going to say, it depends on the time.
I knew you were going to come up.
Trust me.
And I had to leave, so that's a bit of a problem sometimes, but it was fun.
Then he went without underwear the whole trip, so it was terrible. Great show, though. Front row enjoyed it. Dave comes from Galloway, New Jersey, a.k.a. Atlantic City. I have seen Air Supply ___ many times, and I love you guys with all my heart, but I can never get backstage. Shocking, Dave. As they sell out so quickly, those backstage passes. We'll be seeing you next week in Atlantic City. We can't wait. By chance, do you have connections for who might give us money?
That's funny. Is that you?
That's Dave over there. We'll talk to Dave.
We'll talk.
Dave, the guys are going to sign autographs after this. You might have a chance to say hello there. Sharon comes. We have 2 questions left, then we'll get you out of here, Jim. Sharon comes to us from Texas. The first time I saw y'all was at Astro World stage in Houston. I took my daughter to her very first concert. And then, funny enough, Sharon doesn't know how old her daughter is because she wants to know from you, what year was that? Sharon, how old's your daughter? Do the math, subtract, and you got it. It's pretty much how it works. Do you remember Astro World in Houston last time you guys played?
Oh, yeah.
It was 1981.
1981. There you go, Sharon. That's the age of your daughter. 1981. I'm going to save this last question, I think, from the audience, because I think this is a great question. Peg from Michigan has a great question. What misconceptions do you find that fans have about being in a band and being on the road, especially a group that's made it as long as you have?
Typically, people think it's all glamorous. They think that we go on stage for a couple of hours a night, and then we go back to the hotel and have champagne and caviar and limousine service everywhere, and a lot of people at our beck and call, an entourage. We don't have any of that. We work very hard to get to the show. For instance, after this trip, we get off in Fort Lauderdale. So we've done 2 shows here. We get off and we drive to Daytona. The day we get in and play a show, when we're overseas a lot, especially in Latin America, the shows always start at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. The next flight out to the next town is usually at 6 in the morning. There's only one flight per day. So you get back to the hotel at 1 o'clock in the morning, get a couple hours sleep, get to the airport, do that. And we also have the crew, which, you know, obviously without them we wouldn't have a career. They have it worse than we do, but it's certainly, for us, it's not glamorous. I mean, we love being here with you guys today. We love performing on stage, but to get there is really sometimes very wearing and very frustrating. But no matter what happens during the day, and I've said this to some of the guys in the band, not this lineup, that when you get backstage before the show, we have a ritual, and I tell them a lot of times this is the first show for the rest of your life. So don't screw it up. And everybody pays a lot of money to see acts these days, including us, and you deserve 100%, not 95% or 40%. And we do endeavour every time we go on stage to fulfil that for you, because you know, obviously we wouldn't be here without you guys.
Great.
I kind of
great
went
answer.
off on a tangent there, but
Yeah, no, it's exactly right.
it isn't glamorous most of the time.
Graham, what would you add? What misconceptions do people have about being in a band?
The misconception is that it's easy, you know, but it's really hard work. Let me tell you. I mean, to travel and just getting prepared for the show. I know Russell feels the same way, but when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you think about is the show, and you've got, you know, 10 or 12 hours to wait, but you're preparing all the time for when you walk on stage. And an audience expects you to look pretty cool and look as cool as you can be. But it's hard work, you know, rehearsing, thinking about songs all the time, what you're going to say. It's a career, but it's hard work. And if people think that it's not, that's very wrong. It's not right.
And you guys still do a lot of dates as well. You're still touring heavily.
Yeah.
How many dates a year?
Well, last year we did 130.
130 dates
And-
is a lot.
And before we came out on this leg, we've already booked to do 120. And it's
Already?
only,
Yeah.
you know, now. So it's going to be a lot.
And exactly to your point, the reason I asked that is it leads exactly back to both of your points, really. People think that it's just the dates. It's not all the travel, all the build, all the breakdown, all the da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Each date is not just one multi-hour show. It is a whole mix of days of planning and moving. And it's a lot for management. It's a lot for you. It's a lot for the band, and on down the list. So
Yes, it is.
it is incredible that you still do that many dates, because in reality, and I mean this with absolute respect, I hope you can hear this with the respect I mean it, you've achieved so much. So let me ask it like this. You've achieved so much, so much. You're so revered, you're so honored, but at the same time, you're still doing this much. What drives you to do this many dates still? And then I'll get you out of here. Last question. What drives you to still be Air Supply day in, day out?
You guys. Absolutely. Because no matter what kind of a day you've had or what the schedule is, as soon as we go on stage and this first song starts and we walk out and you can see, you know, you guys love to see us. Every audience is different if we play multiple dates in the same place. But to see that what we've done for the last, I'm talking here.
Yeah.
Just
Don't make me do what I did last night in the show.
Yeah, right. That was classic. Did you see this guy last night?
The second show.
Chicago. Some guy in the audience. How about some new talent? Jason shut him down in a heartbeat. He said, if you drop $100,000 on a suite, we'll get you some new talent. Until then, he said, shut up. But to see the reaction and the response from stuff that we've been doing for so long, and to realise that Graham's compositions and our performances have really reached your hearts, it means everything to us, sincerely. So thank you again.
Thank you for saying that. Phenomenal answer. And thank you for your acknowledgments. That's very, very kind of you, sir. Graham, do you have any last words you'd like before we get you out of here, sir?
No, I think Russell summed it all up. It's all for us. It's all about the people in the audience. You know, I mean, we wouldn't be here without you. And people forget that it's a journey that we've taken together, and it's not over yet by a long shot. But we love every moment that we play. Before the day before we got on the ship, which is a day before yesterday, we did a show in Melbourne, Australia, and straight after the show, we flew straight here. But you know, that's what we love to do. That's what we love to do.
And because of all that, they're here for us. Please help me thank Russell and Graham, Air Supply.
Thank you, guys. I love you. Thank you.